When evening came, his disciples went down to the sea, got into a boat, and started across the sea to Capernaum. It was now dark, and Jesus had not yet come to them. The sea became rough because a strong wind was blowing. When they had rowed about 3 or 4 miles, they saw Jesus walking onto the sea and coming near the boat, and they were terrified. But he said to them, "It is I, do not be afraid." Then they wanted to take him on the boat, and immediately the boat reached the land towards which they were going.
Lead me to the cross. That's all I want. That's all I care about. Just take me there. Take me to the place where Jesus gave his life. Take me to the place where all my sins are laid at his feet. Take me to the place where my shame is no longer necessary. Take me to the cross where Jesus died for me.
You know, this text is very fitting for us right now. We're kind of going through a little bit of issues where we're shutting things down. We're seeing all of this stuff, right, that's happening in our lives. We're seeing the notifications. We're seeing all of the different people all of the different organizations. And of course, even when Disneyland kind of shuts down, we're always like, whoa, now it's real, right? So many people were like, this concert shut down, that concert shut down. Okay, that's fine. And now all of a sudden Disneyland shows up and it's like, wait. So now we got to take this seriously, people, which is really interesting because we've been kind of anticipating some of this happening as we see kind of the notifications go around. I can notice in my sort of body and in my sort of mind, I can notice that there is something happening in me every time I see something new show up in the news. And honestly, like my initial reaction was to sort of take this and say, it's not that bad, right? And then the other part of it was to basically look around and say, you know what, we need to take something seriously. And so, of course, we're looking at the world around us and we're like, well, there's a risk, of course, with the gospel. There's a risk with meeting in this space. And so we're scared. We honestly start to get scared because now it starts to get real. Different people, different organizations start to kind of put it together, and then they react, they respond, and then we are realizing like maybe we should respond too, right? It's basic crowd mentality, basically. You know, you see crowds kind of get together, and then when the crowd kind of moves in this way, you end up kind of running in that way too. In fact, there's a video that I want to show you real quick. Take a look at this. basically the crowd creates or creates the trajectory that you're headed. If you go against the crowd, you might actually get trampled over, right? But sometimes you got to kind of run with the crowd, and it sort of creates this mass hysteria, or at least this mass hysteria sort of creates this hysteria in the person, and they run around and they run with the crowd now. And so, that's kind of what's happening here. That's what we're seeing. And yet at the same time, we are a people of the gospel. We are the people who have been kind of combating this stuff all throughout our lives. For the past 2,000 years, we have seen over and over and over. The crowds go this way, and we want to go that way, right? But of course, we sometimes have to go along with the crowd because there's something real that's happening. However, this is where it becomes absolutely pivotal when Jesus shows up. Or when the crowd and the chaos of the waters and all that kind of stuff show up. And we see this over and over throughout the Old Testament, and especially in this text, when Jesus walks on water. Prior to seeing Jesus on the water, there is something really scary about what happens in the situation of the disciples. The disciples are looking at the water. The disciples are looking around, and they have absolutely no clue how to handle all of this chaos. In fact, it becomes so chaotic that they think that they're about to die. They think that they're about to be swallowed up by the ocean. And here's the thing about the ocean that's really important about the Hebrew understanding and the Hebrew theology and even supernatural understanding of how things worked within their culture and within their community, was that in the old times, in the Old Testament, to look at the ocean and the depths of the ocean, the understanding was that the sea monsters lived there and the demons lived there. So for them to kind of go over the ocean, they were risking sailing over hell itself for them, for sailing over the demons' dwelling place, basically. And so when the chaos happens in the water, it means that the demons are sort of surfacing, and all of this chaos is the result of the demonic presence that is existing in the waters. And so if they're caught in the storm, they're caught in some place that they have absolutely no clue about. They're caught in basically an idea where you have to basically ride the waves as best as possible. You have to go around and you have to just kind of ride them, and you have to go along with whatever wave comes next. And if the wave tramples you or crashes over, you basically have to just kind of allow yourself to hold on tight and hope that wave doesn't capsize your boat, right? And then at the same time, if the wave capsizes your boat, then you have to sort of know how to re-up the boat again. And in fact, that's something that we learned when we were in Hawaii. When you paddle a canoe, you have to learn how to put your boat back up with the rest of your team. And if you didn't know how to do this, then you shouldn't be on the canoe with the rest of the team. So you have to know this stuff. You have to understand this stuff, and you have to know exactly how to sort of manage the sea. However, for them, in those days, they didn't know how to manage the sea. In fact, it was even more so that the demonic presence within the waters, when it resurfaced or surfaced back up, and they were caught in the middle of the demonic presence, it was almost like getting swallowed up by something crazy. If we look back at the story of Jonah, we see the same thing. We see Jonah getting swallowed up by a big fish. Not necessarily a whale, right? It's a big fish. And the big fish is not just a fish, but a sea monster. It is a monster large enough to swallow up a human being. It is a monster that's large enough to actually create something or to veer him away from his path. And so that's what we're seeing here. And the same thing is happening here. There is a fear. There is an understanding that when the demons show up on the water, it is monstrous. It is something that is unknown. It is something that we're incapable of handling. And so the fear sets in. The fear sets in, and all you can do is respond in fear. And so when Jesus shows up, and it says this right here, when they had rowed about three or 4 miles, they saw Jesus walking on the sea and coming near the boat. And then they were terrified. They were terrified of Jesus walking on the water. And you know, for us, we look at it and was like, well, I mean, I'm going to get scared. I'm going to get scared when it's terrifying. You know, like it's terrifying somebody walking on water. And I look at that and I'm like, well, yeah, any person walking on the water, I would get scared. However, if they knew it was Jesus right off the bat, or if they actually saw that it was Jesus right off the bat, then it's possible that the fear wouldn't necessarily set in. But this is what was happening, is that the chaos of the water created and instilled the fear in them, and then their response to Jesus on the water, another miracle, was to be afraid. It's a natural response. It's a natural response to be afraid. It's a natural response to give into the fear. And it's a natural response to actually look at something and not have any clue what it is and be afraid of it. But here's the crazy thing, is that when Jesus shows up and Jesus speaks, there is a reassurance in the way that he responds. There is a reassuring tone that happens when he speaks. This is the gospel. This is the gospel of Jesus Christ. We know this because this is exactly what John said in the beginning. I'm going to come back to that. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word became flesh. This is the gospel. When Jesus speaks, when the Word is spoken, there is an opportunity for the disciples to feel reassured that Jesus' presence is there. And so I want us to understand that when we are going through this together, or when we are going through this, we are going through this together. We are going through this as a family. We are going through this as a community. We are going through this as a people of Jesus. We are going through this as a love of Jesus. We are going through this in the process, and as a community, we are going to continue to love on each other in this way. It is extremely important, and we see it here. Jesus' word, Jesus' gospel, Jesus' spokenness, a spoken word, is going to continue to build us, to love on us, and in the process, we still feel connected to one another. So this gathering, speak to each other, love on each other, give each other that reassurance that no matter what, you are still family with me. No matter what, you are still one of me, one of mine, one of my own. No matter what, even though we have to cancel some of these things, we're still going to be loving on each other. No matter what, if let's say 2 weeks from now, we come back together and we look at each other, we embrace each other because we can now embrace each other knowing that we're not going to spread something crazy, right? No matter what, even in the process of all of this fear, even if, let's say, we have to close down for so long, no matter what, we are going to be one with each other. No matter what. Because we are people of the gospel. And there's going to be this social distancing, this possible isolation. But the truth is, no matter what, even in the isolation, we're still one with each other. We're still one of each other. And this is basically it. Because we know that there's a reassuring tone of Jesus that shows up. That in the process of fear, in the process of the unknown, in the process of the fear of the unknown, we're going to continue to build up each other because that's what Jesus does for us. And we're going to reassure each other that Jesus is still in charge. He's still in control, and he will continue to be in control throughout the rest of eternity. We don't have to worry about this stuff because God is working. God is moving. God is coming. God is bringing in whatever he can to make sure that we're going to be a part of his world, a part of his life, and we're going to do this together.